The navigation screen exploded in a shower of sparks, and Captain Marcus Chen knew he was about to die on the most dangerous planet in the galaxy. Stem failure. Cascade imminent. Blared across every display as the Pathfinder F bucked like a wild animal. Marcus fought the controls, sweat streaming down his face as G-forces tried to crush him into his seat. The ship screamed through space, hemorrhaging atmosphere and hope in equal measure. "Not today, you bastard!" he snarled through gritted teeth. But the universe had other plans. "Wow!" the hull shrieked as atmospheric entry tore at the vessel's skin. Through the viewport, Kepler 442 loomed, a hellscape of crystalline spires and roiling toxic storms that had already claimed 47 alien lives across 12 different species over the past 2 centuries. The Galactic Council's official report echoed in his mind like a death sentence. No biological entity can survive longer than 72 hours on this world. Kepler 442c remains classified as Class-X. Unsurvivable. Marcus had read every file, studied every failed expedition. The Zephyrian atmospheric specialists had lasted 6 hours before the toxic storms dissolved their respiratory systems. The militaristic Kreks had survived 18 hours using powered armor before something in the crystalline forests tore through their defenses like paper. Even the energy-resistant Vorfak, beings who could withstand the heart of a star, had been found 3 days later as desiccated husks, and now he was about to join them. The ship hit the surface like a meteor, carving a half-mile trench through crystalline formations that rang like broken bells. Emergency lights flickered weakly in the smoke-filled cockpit as Marcus hung upside down in his harness, blood trickling from a gash on his forehead. "Status report." He croaked to the ship's AI, though he already knew the answer. "Life support. 12% functionality. Hull integrity. 23% functionality. Engines. Offline. Communications. Offline. Emergency beacon. Damaged beyond repair. Survival probability. 0.003%. Marcus laughed. Actually laughed, as he cut himself free from the harness. "Never tell me the odds, sweetheart. Humans have a bad habit of beating impossible statistics." But as he crawled through the twisted wreckage gathering supplies, the weight of his situation settled in. He was alone on a world that had killed species far more advanced than humanity. His emergency supplies would last maybe a week. No one would come looking for him. Solo survey missions were designed for radio silence. He was going to die here. The only question was how long he could make 47 deaths become 48. Outside, the real nightmare was just beginning. The first thing that hit him was the gravity, 1.3 times Earth normal, like wearing a suit of lead. Every step was an effort, every breath a struggle against air thick with methane and sulfur compounds that made his emergency respirator work overtime. The second was the sound. Scream! It came from everywhere and nowhere, a crystalline shriek that seemed to vibrate through his bones and set his teeth on edge. Marcus grabbed his survival pack and stumbled away from the wreckage just as something massive moved in the toxic fog surrounding him. "What the hell?" The fog parted like a curtain, and Marcus got his first look at the apex predators that had killed 3 separate Zephyrian research teams in under 6 hours. They looked like living lightning given serpentine form, crackling energy that phased between solid crystal and pure plasma. The smallest was the size of an Earth bus. The largest, Marcus couldn't see where it ended in the swirling mists, but he could feel its electromagnetic field making his hair stand on end from 50 meters away. The Zizis, ! One of them, surged toward him, electricity arcing between crystalline spines that jutted from its flowing form. Marcus dove behind the boulder as the creature's discharge turned sand into molten glass. His heart hammered against his ribs as he fumbled for his plasma pistol. 3 shots, that's all he had, against creatures that seemed to be made of the very energy his weapon produced. "Think, Chen. Think like an engineer, not a panicked tourist." As he watched them circle his position, something clicked in his analytical mind. Their movements weren't random. The electrical discharges followed patterns, mathematical sequences he recognized from his engineering background. Prime numbers, Fibonacci sequences, even what looked like geometric progressions. They're not just hunting me, he realized with growing amazement. They're trying to communicate. But recognizing intelligence and surviving it were two very different things. As the creatures closed in, Marcus made a desperate decision. Instead of running or fighting, he did something that no previous expedition had ever attempted. He started talking to them.
Hey!
He shouted, stepping out from behind his cover with his hands raised.
I'm not here to hurt you. I'm just trying to survive.
The creatures stopped, their energy forms flickering with what might have been surprise. Then the largest one, a being easily 30 meters long, flowed forward until it hovered just outside of striking distance. B-Z-Z-Z-Z-Z. The discharge pattern was definitely deliberate. Marcus closed his eyes, focusing on the mathematical relationship. 3 short bursts, pause, 3 short bursts, pause, 3 short bursts.
SOS.
He whispered. You're sending an SOS signal. But why would you? The realization hit him like a lightning bolt. These creatures weren't the planet's apex predators. They were its guardians. And every expedition that had come here had tried to fight them instead of understanding them. 48 hours after the crash, Marcus made the first successful contact with an energy-based life form in galactic history. He'd spent 2 sleepless days observing the storm creatures from hidden positions throughout the crystalline forest, mapping their behavior patterns and electrical signatures. What the previous alien expeditions had documented as chaotic weather phenomena, Marcus recognized as something far more sophisticated. They were speaking to each other in mathematics. Using salvaged components from his ship and the twisted remains of 2 crashed alien vessels he'd discovered, Marcus jury-rigged a translation device that could convert electrical patterns into mathematical equations and vice versa. His first attempts were crude, basic arithmetic that the creatures seemed to find amusing, judging by the gentle electrical chuckles that surrounded him. But persistence paid off. After dozens of failed attempts, Marcus finally managed to transmit a coherent message. Marcus-Chen-Human-Peaceful-Visitor-Seek-Understanding. The response nearly stopped his heart. 47-Hard-Species-72-Hars-Maximum-Survival-Query-Identity-Hostile-Query. They knew. They had been counting every death, cataloguing every failed expedition. They were asking if he was another invader come to study and exploit them. Marcus stepped into the clearing where the largest storm creature waited, a being of pure energy that towered 3 stories above him. His improvised translator crackled as he spoke carefully. I am Marcus Chen, of the species called human. I didn't choose to come here. My ship malfunctioned. I'm not here to conquer or study you for military purposes. I'm just trying to survive long enough to understand. The creature's response came as a blinding flash of light that temporarily overloaded his device. When his vision cleared, he found himself surrounded by dozens of the beings, all pulsing in synchronized patterns that made the air itself hum with harmonic frequencies. Human-unknowns-species, -first, -peaceful, -contact, -query, -peaceful, -fall, 42C. Purpose? Marcus thought carefully about his answer. Everything depended on this moment. To learn, to understand, to find a way to coexist instead of competing. My species, we're not like the others who came here. We adapt. The creatures fell silent. For a terrifying moment, Marcus wondered if he'd said something wrong. Then, slowly, they began to move in complex spirals around him, their electrical fields creating a dome of protective energy that filtered the toxic atmosphere. Human Marcus Chen, welcome. Trial begins. Warning. Many tests survival not guaranteed. Trial? Marcus asked, but he was already beginning to understand. This world wasn't just a death trap. It was a testing ground. What followed was the most brutal education of Marcus's life. The storm creatures, who called themselves the Volthari, in electrical patterns that translated roughly to those who dance between states, weren't just guardians of Kepler 442c. They were the planet's immune system, designed by an ancient civilization to test potential inhabitants for worthiness. Every species that had come to this world had failed the trial by trying to impose their will on the environment instead of learning to work with it. The Zephyrians had attempted to terraform the atmosphere to suit their needs. The Kreks had tried to strip mine the crystalline formations. The energy-resistant Vorthak had actually attempted to enslave the Volthari, seeing them as a resource to be harvested. All had been found wanting. All had been eliminated. But Marcus was different. When the Volthari put him through challenges that should have killed him a dozen times over, he didn't try to overcome them through superior technology or brute force. He adapted. When they forced him to navigate electrical storms that could vaporize a man in seconds, he didn't try to shield himself or fight through them. Instead, he studied the patterns, learned to read the warning signs, and found the safe paths that the Volthari themselves used to travel. When they made him find food sources in an ecosystem where everything was either toxic or actively carnivorous, he didn't try to terraform edible plants or synthesize artificial nutrition. He observed what the smaller energy beings fed on, learned to process the crystalline formations into basic nutrients, and even figured out how to cultivate a type of electric moss that could supplement his diet. Most challenging of all, when the planet's weather systems turned violently chaotic during storm season at atmospheric disturbances that had killed entire alien research teams, Marcus didn't try to build massive shelters or underground bunkers. He learned to read the Voltari's warning signals and move with the storms instead of against them, finding shelter in the electromagnetic dead zones they created, specifically for his protection. Fascinating. Every minute is not. Transmitted Stormweaver Zethnal, the eldest of the Volthari who had become something like Marcus's mentor. Most species attempt dominance over environment. Human Marcus Chen attempts harmony with environment. Unprecedented approach. It's not unprecedented for humans. Marcus replied through his increasingly sophisticated translator. We evolved on a world that tried to kill us in 1,000 different ways. We learned that fighting the environment was less effective than adapting to it. Sometimes the best way to survive isn't to be stronger, it's to be more flexible. But the greatest test was still coming. 3 months after his crash, the Volthari showed Marcus something that changed his understanding of the entire galaxy. The wreckage of previous expeditions, preserved in a vast crystalline cavern, like a museum of failure. Zephyrian atmospheric suits, their owners reduced to desiccated husks. Kreks mining equipment, torn apart by forces that could shred reinforced alloys. Vorthak energy absorption devices, overloaded and exploded from trying to drain the Volthari's power. And in the center of it all, a holographic display showing the final moments of each expedition. The fear, the anger, the desperate attempts to call for rescue or reinforcements. These beings came to exploit the day forward, Zifnal explained. They saw Voltari as resources to harvest or obstacles to eliminate. Or failed understanding test. Marcus walked among the alien remains, feeling a deep sadness for the lives lost to misunderstanding and arrogance. Then he did something that shocked the ancient beings to their core. He held a funeral. For every alien who had died on their world, Marcus built a small memorial from the crystalline formations, programming his translator to broadcast a message of respect and remembrance in each species' native mathematics. He spoke about their likely hopes and dreams, their families back home, their courage in exploring the unknown even if their methods had been flawed. The Volthari, who had never encountered a species that honored fallen enemies, were deeply moved. Human Marcus Chen demonstrates wisdom honor compassion unprecedented among visitors. Trial conclusion approaching. The final test came at the end of his 4th month on Kepler-42 BC. The Voltari gathered in greater numbers than Marcus had ever seen, their combined electrical fields creating aurora-like displays across the toxic sky. At their center waited an ancient being, one of the original Voltari who had been present when the testing protocols were first established. Human Marcus Chen. The Ancient One's transmission was deeper, more complex than any Marcus had encountered.
You have had demonstrated adaptation, cooperation, respect. Final query. What would you do with knowledge of Voltari civilization?
Marcus had been expecting this question for weeks. His answer would determine not just his own survival, but potentially the future relationship between humanity and the most advanced energy-based civilization in the galaxy. I would share it, he said simply. Not to exploit or profit, but to build bridges. My species excels at cooperation, but we're young and inexperienced. Your people have wisdom we need. In exchange, we might offer fresh perspectives, new approaches to old problems. Together, we could accomplish things neither of our species could achieve alone. The ancient Voltari's response was a cascade of light that illuminated the entire cavern. Human Marcus Chen passes trial. Welcome to Voltari, civilization, first, matter-based species. Granted, partnership status. 6 months after his crash, rescue finally came to Kepler-442c. Commander Zixthahala, of the Crystalline Republic, led the search expedition, expecting to find another set of remains to catalogue for the Galactic Council's ever-growing list of casualties. Her crystalline form flickered with resigned duty as her ship entered the planet's toxic atmosphere. Magnify Sector 7, she ordered her science officer, following the last known trajectory of the human vessel. Let's recover what's left of Captain Chen and file another death report. But what appeared on the main screen defied every piece of data in the Galactic Council's archives. A thriving settlement sprawled across the crystalline landscape, its structures a seamless blend of salvaged human technology, alien engineering from previous expeditions, and something entirely new, constructs made of crystallized energy that pulsed with Voltari life. Gardens of impossible plants grew in neat rows, tended by beings of living lightning, who moved with careful precision to provide exactly the right electromagnetic frequencies for growth. And in the center of it all stood Marcus Chen, very much alive, and apparently teaching a group of young Voltari how to calibrate their electrical output for optimal plant cultivation. That's impossible, whispered Dr. Kethar, the expedition's xenobiologist. His 6 eyes blinked in rapid succession, a sign of extreme agitation in his species. The energy beings are cooperating with him. They've never cooperated with anyone. They've killed everyone who tried to establish contact. Zixthala's crystalline form darkened with suspicion and something that might have been fear. There must be some form of mind control involved. Pheromone manipulation, technological coercion. No species could accomplish this through mere, what do the humans call it? Friendship? As their ship descended toward the settlement, the Voltari formed a protective wall around Marcus, electricity arcing between them in complex warning patterns. But Marcus stepped through their protective barrier without fear, raising his hand in a greeting gesture that somehow seemed both casual and deeply respectful. Welcome to New Eden. He called out, his voice carrying clearly through the toxic atmosphere thanks to a vocal amplifier of his own design. I've been expecting you. The greeting was transmitted simultaneously in electrical patterns to the Voltari, mathematical sequences to species that communicated numerically. and harmonic frequencies to the crystalline beings aboard the rescue ship. Marcus had somehow learned to speak in multiple languages at once. Zixtahala's form brightened with shock. In her 3 centuries of diplomatic service, she had never seen a human, or any species, demonstrate such sophisticated communication protocols. "Captain Chen," she said carefully, "we are here to rescue you from this situation." Marcus smiled, and somehow that simple human expression carried layers of meaning that translated across species barriers. "Rescue? Commander, I'm not trapped here. I'm home." The emergency session of the Galactic Council was unlike any in recorded history. Marcus sat in the center of the vast chamber on Nexus Prime, surrounded by representatives of 47 species, all of whom had declared Kepler 42 BC unsurvivable. His mere presence should have been impossible. His thriving partnership with the Volfari was beyond impossible. His casual confidence in the face of the galaxy's most powerful beings was universe-alteringly impossible. "Explain how you survived," demanded High Counselor Vextheran, his tentacles writhing with barely controlled agitation. "Our best specialists died within days. The energy entities have killed every expedition for 2 centuries. Yet you claim to have befriended them." Marcus leaned back in his chair, completely unintimidated by beings who could crush entire star systems. The 6 months on Kepler 442c had changed him in fundamental ways. He carried himself with the quiet confidence of someone who had faced the impossible and found it merely challenging. "You want the secret," he said, his voice carrying easily through the massive chamber. "I listened." "Listened?" Vextheran's voice dripped with skepticism. "Our finest linguists, our most advanced translation matrices, our specialized diplomatic protocols, all failed to establish meaningful contact. You expect us to believe that mere listening succeeded where our greatest minds failed?" Marcus stood, his human frame dwarfed by the alien representatives, but somehow commanding the room through sheer presence. Every species that came to that world tried to impose their will on it. The Zephyrians tried to terraform it to suit their atmospheric needs. The Krex tried to strip mine its resources. The Vorthak tried to harvest the Voltari as living batteries. You all saw the planet and its inhabitants as problems to solve or obstacles to overcome. He activated a holographic display showing footage from his settlement. Volthari tending gardens alongside hybrid technology that seamlessly blended human ingenuity, alien engineering, and energy being innovations. Young Volthari learned human mathematical concepts while teaching Marcus deeper secrets of electromagnetic manipulation. "I saw them as teachers," Marcus continued. "When they showed me mathematical patterns in their communication, I didn't try to decode them for military advantage. I learned their language, to talk with them. When they tested my survival skills, I didn't try to cheat the tests with superior technology. I adapted my methods to work with their environment. When they challenged my intentions, I didn't lie or manipulate. I showed them respect and genuine curiosity." "Impossible," snarled War Master Krextuth, his armored carapace clicking with aggressive display patterns. "No species survives through mere adaptability. Strength conquers. Technology dominates. Evolution demands specialization for maximum efficiency." Marcus smiled, a very human expression that sent ripples of unease through the chamber. "That's where you're all wrong. Human evolution didn't choose specialization. We chose adaptability. We're not the strongest or the fastest or the smartest at any one thing, but we're good enough at everything to survive anywhere. And more importantly, we're the only species in this chamber that refuses to accept impossible as a final answer." He gestured to include the entire assembly. "Look around you. 47 species, each evolved to perfection in their specialized niche. The Crystalline Republic builds perfect architectural structures. The Krex extract resources with unmatched efficiency. The Vorthak manipulate energy like living batteries. The Zephyrians master atmospheric dynamics. Every one of you is supreme in your chosen domain. His voice grew stronger, more challenging. But what happens when you encounter something outside your opposition? You fail, you retreat, you declare it impossible and add it to your list of no-go zones. Humans? We adapt, we learn, we find a way to make the impossible merely difficult. The chamber fell into uncomfortable silence as the implications of his words sank in. Finally, it was Dr. Kethar who asked the question they were all thinking. What did the Volfari teach you, Captain Chen? What knowledge did you gain that our greatest scientists could not? Marcus's expression grew serious. They taught me that this galaxy is far more dangerous than any of you realize, and that the time for species-centric thinking is running out. The holographic display that filled the council chamber showed star charts unlike any in the galactic databases. This is what the Voltari showed me in their deepest archives, Marcus explained, manipulating the three-dimensional map with practiced ease. The true history of this galaxy, going back 50,000 years. The display zoomed in on regions of space that appeared empty on current charts. Vast dark zones where no star shone, no planets existed, no life had been detected for millennia. These weren't always empty. Marcus continued. According to Volthari records, these regions once contained thriving civilizations. Hundreds of species, thousands of worlds, entire stellar confederations more advanced than anything we have today. Murmurs of disbelief rippled through the chamber. High Councillor Vextran's tentacles writhed with agitation. You're suggesting that entire sectors of the galaxy were, what? Destroyed? By what force? Not destroyed, Marcus said grimly. Now, consumed. The display shifted, showing massive dark entities moving through space like cosmic predators. Planet-sized beings that fed on stellar energy, converting entire star systems into lifeless voids. Behind them, a trail of dead space stretching across light years. The Volfari call them the Devourers, Marcus explained. They appear every 50,000 years, sweeping through the galaxy in waves, subsuming everything in their path. The last time they came, the galaxy's greatest civilizations tried to fight them with conventional weapons, with super technology, with specialized military forces. And? Prompted War Master Krextoth, his aggressive posture slightly subdued. They lost. Every advanced civilization was either destroyed or forced to transcend physical existence to survive. That's how the Volfari became energy beings. It was the only way to escape the Devourer's hunger for matter-based life. Commander Zixtahalla's crystalline form flickered with deep concern. Are you saying these Devourers are returning? Marcus nodded gravely. The Voltari's long-range sensors have detected movement in the dark zones. The 50,000-year cycle is ending. They estimate we have maybe 20 years before the first wave reaches inhabited space. The chamber erupted in chaos. Representatives shouted in dozens of languages, demanding proof, calling for immediate evacuation, arguing about defensive strategies. But Marcus's voice cut through the noise. There's more, he said, and somehow his quiet confidence commanded attention. The ancient civilizations that created Kepler 442c as a testing ground weren't just trying to preserve their knowledge. They were looking for something specific. The holographic display changed again, showing the complex trials that Marcus had undergone on the Death World. They were searching for species that could adapt, cooperate, and survive the impossible. Because that's what it's going to take to stop the Devourers, not superior firepower or advanced technology. Those have been tried and failed. What we need is something that has never been attempted before. Which is? Asked High Councillor Vextran, though his tone suggested he already suspected the answer. Unity, Marcus said simply. Every species in this chamber has evolved to perfection, within their specialization. Alone, you'll be consumed just like every civilization before you. But together, if you can learn to truly cooperate instead of merely coexisting, you might have something the galaxy has never seen before. He gestured around the chamber. Crystalline Republic architectural mastery, combined with Krek's resource extraction and Vorthak energy manipulation. Zephyrian atmospheric control integrated with human adaptability and Volfari energy transcendence. Not competing specializations, but complementary capabilities, working in perfect harmony. You're talking about something that has never been achieved, protested Dr. Kethfar. Species-level cooperation on that scale, the political complexities alone would take centuries to resolve. Marcus smiled, that maddeningly confident human smile. Then it's a good thing humans specialize in making the impossible merely difficult. And it's an even better thing that we have Volfari allies who have been preparing for this day for 50,000 years. The implications hung in the air like a challenge to everything the galactic civilization had believed about itself. 3 months after the Council revelation, the galaxy looked completely different. The adaptation protocols, Marcus's systematized approach to interspecies cooperation, had become required training for every diplomatic mission. Traditional alliance structures, based on mutual benefit and careful power balancing, were being replaced by integrated cooperation networks where species shared their core capabilities instead of hoarding them. But not everyone was pleased with the rapid changes. The humans are a plague, snarled War Master Krextoth at an emergency session of the Conservative Coalition. They spread chaos wherever they go, undermining the natural order that has kept the galaxy stable for 10,000 years. Around the table, representatives of the more traditional species nodded in agreement. The rapid integration sweeping through galactic society threatened their positions of power and privilege. They must be contained, agreed High Admiral Vorthak of the Dominion Fleet, before their adaptability spreads further and destroys everything our ancestors built. But their plans for containment would have to wait. At that very moment, Marcus Chen was making another discovery that would reshape the galaxy forever. Deep in the archives of Kepler 442c, the Volfari had revealed the location of an ancient facility, a remnant of the civilization that had originally terraformed the planet as a testing ground. Marcus led a joint expedition of humans, Volfari, and allied alien species to investigate what the energy beings called the Final Protocol. What they found in the crystalline depths changed everything. The facility wasn't just a testing ground or archive. It was a construction platform. These energy signatures are incredible, reported Dr. Sarah Kim, Marcus's chief science officer, and one of the first humans to successfully integrate Volfari technology. The power levels suggest this thing could build structures on a stellar scale. Marcus studied the ancient control systems, their meaning becoming clear through his deepening partnership with the Volfari. It's not just a construction platform. It's a shipyard. The ancients weren't just testing species for survival. They were recruiting them for a specific purpose. Ancient-1s, preparation, protoc, galaxy, defense, construction, imminent, came the translation from Stormweaver Zephnor, his electrical form pulsing with excitement and apprehension. Defense? System? Marcus asked, though he was beginning to understand. The facility's systems activated for the first time in 50 millennia, responding to the unique combination of human adaptability, Volfari energy mastery, and integrated alien technologies. Holographic displays filled the vast chamber with blueprints for something unprecedented in galactic history. "By the void," whispered Commander Zixthala, her crystalline form refracting the display's light into rainbow patterns. "It's a plan for a living starship. Part matter, part energy, part something I don't even recognize." The blueprints showed a vessel unlike anything in current technology, a fusion of every major species' capabilities into a single, adaptive platform. crystalline republic architectural principles providing structural integrity that could reshape itself as needed. Crex mining technology, integrated into resource-gathering systems that could harvest energy from stars themselves. Orfac power management cores capable of storing and directing planet-scale energy outputs. Zephyrian atmospheric control systems that could function in any environment, from deep space to stellar cores. Human adaptability protocols allowing the entire system to modify itself in response to unknown threats. And at the heart of it all, Volfari consciousness integration that would make the ship itself a living, thinking entity. They were preparing for, Marcus realized. Construction requires corporation-level transmitted zethnol. All species must contribute core capabilities. No reservation, no holding back. That's the real test, Marcus said, looking around at the assembled representatives. Not just whether we can work together, but whether we can trust each other completely. This ship would require every species to share their most closely guarded secrets, their most advanced technologies, their fundamental evolutionary advantages. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. What Marcus was proposing went beyond cooperation. It was species-level vulnerability, on a scale never before attempted. The political ramifications alone, began Dr. Kethvar, will have to be overcome, Marcus interrupted, because according to Volfari long-range sensors, we've got less time than we thought. A new display activated, showing the galaxy's edge where massive dark shapes were stirring in the void between stars. 15 years, Marcus announced grimly. Carmus announced grimly. That's how long we have before the first Devourer scouts reach inhabited space. We can spend that time arguing about politics and protecting our individual advantages, or we can spend it building something that might actually save galactic civilization. He turned to face the assembled representatives, his expression carrying the weight of impossible choices and desperate hope. The question isn't whether humanity can lead this project. The question is whether the galaxy can adapt fast enough to survive what's coming. Because like it or not, the age of specialization is ending. The age of cooperation is about to begin. 1 year after Marcus Chen's rescue from Kepler 442c, the Galactic Council faced the most important decision in cosmic history. The evidence was undeniable. Long-range sensors from across the galaxy confirmed the Voltari's warnings. Massive entities were moving through the dark zones, heading toward inhabited space with inexorable purpose. Traditional military assessments suggested that conventional defensive strategies would fail, just as they had 50,000 years ago. The alternative was Marcus's proposal: unprecedented cooperation to build a living starship capable of adapting to threats beyond current imagination. The technical requirements alone are staggering, reported Chief Engineer Thaxlon during the final presentation. Complete technological integration between 47 species, sharing of classified capabilities, joint construction on a scale never before attempted. The risks of failure are enormous. The risks of not trying are extinction, Marcus replied calmly. We have exactly 14 years, 3 months, and 16 days before the Devourer scouts reach our outer colonies. We can spend that time protecting our individual secrets and maintaining our traditional power structures, or we can spend it building something that might actually work. The High Council of Extheran's tentacles writhed with the weight of decision. Captain Chen, what you're proposing requires a level of trust that has never existed between galactic species. You're asking us to bet our civilizations on the untested cooperation protocols of the youngest species in the Council. Marcus stood, his human frame still dwarfed by the alien representatives, but now carrying an authority earned through impossible survival and unprecedented achievement. You're right, if she said simply. I am asking you to trust humanity, not because we're superior to your species, but because we're different. We evolved to adapt, to cooperate, to find solutions when there shouldn't be any. Every species in this chamber, is more advanced than humanity in their specialized fields, but none of you have experience making the impossible merely difficult. He gestured to the holographic display showing the living starship blueprints. This project requires something that goes against every evolutionary instinct you've developed over millions of years. It requires you to be vulnerable, to share your greatest strengths, to trust that cooperation can achieve more than competition. And if we refuse? Asked War Master Krekstov. Marcus's expression grew somber. Then, in 15 years, when the Devourers arrive, you'll discover what every previous galactic civilization learned, that being the best at one thing isn't enough when facing something that consumes everything. The chamber fell silent as each representative contemplated the choice before them. Trust an untested species with their civilization's survival, or face extinction with their individual advantages intact. Finally, it was Commander Zixtahala who spoke. Captain Chen, if we agree to this project, what assurance do we have that humanity won't use this cooperation to dominate galactic civilization? Marcus smiled, and for the first time since his rescue, it was the expression of someone who carried hope instead of grim determination. Because that's not how adaptation works. Because, he said, dominance requires keeping others weak. Cooperation requires making everyone stronger. Humanity doesn't want to rule the galaxy. We want to save it. And we can't do that alone. He looked around the chamber, meeting the gaze of every representative. The Voltari chose to test me on Kepler 442c because they were looking for a species that could prove cooperation was possible. I didn't pass their test alone. I passed it by learning to work with them, by showing respect for their knowledge, by proving that different forms of life could find common ground. What we're proposing isn't human leadership of a galactic project. It's galactic cooperation on a human timeline. Fast, adaptive, willing to fail forward and try again. Because that's what it's going to take to build something impossible in an impossibly short time. The vote, when it came, was closer than Marcus had hoped, but decisive enough to proceed. 26 species voted in favor of the cooperation project. 15 voted against. 6 abstained. As the chamber erupted in argument and planning, Marcus felt a familiar sensation, the same feeling he'd had when facing down the Voltari for the first time on a world that should have killed him. The universe was about to test humanity again, but this time they wouldn't be facing it alone.